We are gathered here today to observe a very important anniversary. Today is June 4th, 2024. But on June 4th of 2004, a man who had been pushed too far, an Air Force veteran, a man who did everything he was supposed to do with petitioning the local government, petitioning courts, always being shit on, finally said, enough. Today is the day, 20 years ago, when Marvin Heemeyer finally said, this is the day, and I'm going out my way. See, a nearby neighbor of his, a nearby business, the owner of that business wanted Marvin's land. Marvin wouldn't sell. So that business owner talked to his friends in the local government and got their help in trying to convince Marvin that he should sell his business, his property, off to him. Now these bureaucrats then went through and messed with him any way they possibly could. Marvin fought back the way he was told he's supposed to. He did petitions into the local councils, city, county, where they just pushed him away. He petitioned the courts, who did not help him either. And for his effort, because he would not back down and sell to this friend of the local bureaucrats, they fined him relentlessly, took him to court, and made sure that the courts found their way, not Marvin's way. They pushed him too far. Well, Marvin had bought a used Komatsu D355 Alpha bulldozer from a government auction. One day he made a decision. He moved that bulldozer into his shop, which he was no longer allowed to conduct business from, because the local government was trying to make sure that, he would be forced to sell to their friend. Marvin then kept himself in his shop for a few months, working secretly on a project. Marvin had money, so he didn't have to worry. Everything was already taken care of. He could take a vacation as long as he wanted, essentially. And then today, 20 years ago, June 4th, 2004, Marvin sang his death song and said, I'm going out my way. He fired up that Killdozer, pushed right through the wall of his former business. He then tore up the nearby business of that neighbor who was trying to force him out and get Marvin to sell his property to him. I do not doubt that it was probably at a far reduced rate from fair market value because of the way this situation is sounding. Marvin then turned towards town, and he was going to do a physical redress of grievances against those that had done him wrong. At a whopping 5 miles per hour, he tore his way through Granby, Colorado's business district. And along the way to get there, he took out a few homes of people who had been trying to force him out of his livelihood, the business that he cared about and was fighting relentlessly to keep open. Well, at the end of his rampage, he had seriously damaged 13 buildings, causing over $5 million in damages. His rampage started at 2:15 p.m. Mountain Time, or 4:15 p.m. Eastern, for those of you that aren't aware of the Mountain Time Zone. For 2 hours and 7 minutes, he let the people know he had been fucked with just a little too much. Now, unfortunately, Marvin did not finish the redress of grievances he wanted to do. He made the mistake of trying to wreck a local hardware store, and unbeknownst to him, beneath this hardware store was a basement. And one side of his dozer, one track, slipped into that basement, and he could not get out. Marvin made other mistakes that day. He closed off the cooling system on that dozer. So as he was gunning it for all it was worth to try to get the Killdozer out of that predicament, he ended up cooking the seals out of the engine, spewing engine oil everywhere, and eventually hoses started bursting also from the overworked coolant system of that used bulldozer. Now, do not believe he was completely unopposed during this whole thing. Through this entire redress of grievances, local police shot at the Killdozer repeatedly. But Marvin was too good at what he did. The Killdozer was too strong. Local bureaucrats and police actually considered contacting the National Guard and the U.S. Army to see if they could get a hold of an Apache helicopter with anti-tank missiles to take him out. And if they couldn't get the anti-tank helicopter, maybe they could get some anti-tank rockets from the National Guard. And if they couldn't get a hold of that, maybe they could get a hold of some explosives and, somehow figure out how to throw together a large enough charge to put onto the Killdozer to end Marvin's physical redress of grievances. Eventually, Marvin realized he had done everything he could do. So Marvin ended his own life inside the Killdozer. Marvin went out his way. And on that day, he became a legend. Henceforth, Marvin Heemeyer shall be known as Saint Marvin Heemeyer of Granby, the patron saint of fuck you. On this day, we all should open ourselves up a nice frosty beverage. Take this beverage, hold it up to the heavens, and say, "Rest in peace, Marvin. May we someday join your side when we've had enough." And then take a large drink from that frosty beverage. And recount the tale of Killdozer, The tale of a man pushed to his limit. Rest in peace, Marvin. You are a patriot. Your name will be inscribed on the walls of honor. Now, for those of you that would like to see a movie adaptation of the story, they did create a movie in 2019 called Tread. And I will put a link in the description to this movie. But be advised that this movie was heavily influenced by the people who did Marvin wrong. And through this movie, they say they just don't understand what caused him to go berserk, to snap and do what he did. There's no understandable reason why he would do this. The same people that pushed him relentlessly are now saying, it wasn't me that did it. Just be aware of that if you watch this movie. But today, I recommend everyone go out. Get yourself a pack or a case of your favorite frosty beverage and drink a couple in honor of Saint Marvin Heemeyer of Granby. And remember to pour just a little bit out on the ground for him. May Marvin enjoy the afterlife, hitting the slopes on the back of a snowmobile like he loved to do, and then going back to a nice warm cabin for a nice piece of ass. Rest in peace, Marvin. You truly are an example for patriots across this country. Now, for all my engineer brothers, for everyone in the patriot and militia movements, and everyone who gets fucked with by the bureaucracy, always remember, essayons, let us try.